Hi, Pete here again. Actually, I'm just back from the vaccination centre. I've just been Pfizered. So if I talk gobbledygook halfway through this video, then you'll have to excuse me. As part of my ongoing experiment to get better, I'm looking for projects that will be useful. And one project I'm going to need going forward is that I'm on a trip shortly, I hope, to Sicily in my 1968 MGB. And it'll be roofed down all the way, and there's nowhere to store anything apart from a tiny little glove box. So having a travel document wallet where we can put our passports, our tickets and all that kind of thing is going to be essential. So I thought I'd have a crack at designing and building one of those. And initially I built it on paper, and that was a really good experience because on paper it didn't work first time. So I had to redesign it and change the sizes. And that was a good experience, not wasting leather, making it out of paper. So I made the templates, and I'll see if I can find a way to put the templates up for you if you want to have a crack at it yourself. You'll see that I made quite a lot of mistakes. There was a lot of stitching involved in this project, and I got better at the stitching the more I went on, which was good. And then there were other things that I did which ruined the kind of outcome in some way. So you'll see some of the mess that I made. But you know, that's what it's all about. It's about making mistakes as a beginner and learning from those mistakes, and that's how you get better. So enjoy the build. If you've got any comments or suggestions or things I could do differently, then please leave some comments below. But yeah, enjoy. Thanks. So this is the paper template. I basically just use a document thing like docs. I did it on an Apple, so it's just a paper thing, printed it out onto A4. The larger things I had to the larger part I had to join together, but that kind of that worked out quite nicely. So you can see that what I'm trying to do is have a pouch for paperwork, whatever you need there, and then two pockets on the front side there, one each side for passports, and then two smaller little pockets on the front of that for whatever, tickets and other things that you get. So first thing was obviously grab some leather from my small stock, which if you've seen my other videos, you'll see where I unboxed this leather when it arrived. So I've got a piece of shoulder, second quality. It's not top notch. I think for practice I don't need anything better than that. And all I need to do then is just basically find a suitable patch that's reasonable quality. You can see down underneath my hand there's kind of like wrinkled bits. So you don't really want to get involved in that. And just find an efficient way to lay out the bits that I want, and then start to cut it up into smaller bits. I've got a bench here which works quite well, but I made a dedicated top out of a piece of covered plywood. It's got a kind of harder, like a masonite cover, and that gives a nice smooth surface. My cutting boards, I've got two of them, but they're often not, when I'm doing this kind of width, they're not wide enough or long enough for me to cut in one go, which is a bit of an inconvenience. You can just see the board sticking out there. Once I've got down to this size, of course, I can then just trim everything down. And so what I basically do is cut out the bits into manageable sizes, get rid of some of the excess, and then I can then proceed to do the best I can. I don't know if using a spray, tacky spray, is a good way of attaching the template. I'm going to experiment with that and see if that leaves a residue that can be just wiped off. That would be a good way of keeping the template in place, because I found there is a bit of a problem with it moving about. So there's my maul, and that kind of helps because it means you can see I can spin it on its axis, and that I found was a very useful way of keeping the paper template in its place, and makes life a little bit easier. This rotary cutter, I have to say, is unbelievably good. It doesn't always cut right through. I've still got to learn how to put the right kind of pressure into it. I'm a bit tentative about using the pressure, and I think I've probably got to use a bit more pressure. Quite often when I cut leather, having done a long cut, I find that little bits of it haven't gone all the way through, even though I think I've done a good job. But you know, again, it's like all things, you've got to learn to use your tools. Wanted to put a little sort of feature in here, and so use the big washer and a craft knife, as you can see, to just curve around there. Not the easiest thing in the world to do, but it kind of works out okay. That's a nice little feature, and I'll put that on there. Another thing is I see a lot of people use a plastic glue spreader, and I think I'm going to have to invest in one of those. I've got this wedge of hardwood, but it's a bit unwieldy and a bit messy, and I actually do, and you'll see at the end, I get some glue on places that I shouldn't do, and you can't do anything with it after that. It ruins the finish. You can't get it off, and anything you put on top, it just shows up, and you'll see it at the end on the front, which is a bit annoying. Anyway, just using a bit of Evo stick. This is quite good, this glue, I think. It doesn't run. That's the nice thing about it, and it doesn't string out. I've got a few others, and they're a bit stringy, so as you pull them out, you get these strings, and that's definitely not something you want. There we are, I've got a bit in the wrong place. Anyway, so just getting those front little ticket pockets sorted out. And tapping it round just to make sure you get a proper good contact so that stays in place. Now just doing my line for my stitching. Picked this tool up on Amazon. Took a while to get to me, but it's not the biggest in the world, but actually it seems to work quite well. It's not a bad quality tool. I think it cost me 12 euros or something, so it wasn't too bad. Again, you see guys doing this, it's all very smooth. I'm very tentative with it. But it kind of works. Now what I'm doing here, I decided to make one piece of leather but two pockets, and so just to define the line of stitch between the two pockets rather than making two completely separate pockets, I just drew a line down there, and I will stitch a line through there, and that creates, so it's a bit more efficient. Here are my stitching chisels. Really haven't got the hang of this. Sometimes I go right through the whole thing. But I'm beginning to learn that there's a sound you can hear when you've gone through. There's a change in the sound, and the more I do it, I realise that you can pick up the sound, then you know you've gone through, because it kind of, there's a different tone. People say you should beeswax the tines on this thing. I haven't tried that yet, but I think I might, because it is a bit difficult sometimes to get them out. So having punched all the way around, and I made the mistake of punching that larger piece of leather, but I haven't yet punched it onto the back, so I'll have to go back and do it again, but the guide is there anyway. So here I am with beginning my stitching, one needle at each end. I've been experimenting with different techniques by watching videos by various people. I'm quite slow, but I get quicker. one of the things I'm really keen to learn is how to get the back stitching on the reverse side slanted the same as the front. And I did have a go. You see me just hook it over the needle, but actually that didn't work. I think I've got to hook it over on the back. I need a bit more practice on doing that. And also, some people use an awl, and I've seen two things actually. Some people using an awl, or some people push the needle through from one side first to open the hole, and then start again the other side, so you've got a nice clean hole to work through. And again, it's trial and error. But I'm getting a decent, I don't know if you can see that, but I'm getting a decent kind of angle. And you can see you've got a couple of mistakes there. Didn't quite get it right, so it's not perfect. A lot of it is about being consistent with the pull and pulling up and out in the right direction. And also you might notice I'm stitching away from me, and I think I'm going to experiment with stitching towards me. So now I'm just preparing once again with the glue to stitch that assembly onto the biggest pocket. So there's a number of sub-assemblies here. First two ticket pockets, then a passport pocket, and then a main pocket. It's all going to be done in the right kind of sequence to get it right. I made this stitching pony, by the way. I decided, I'm a bit of a woodworker, so I thought I could actually make that. But I'd already discovered on this particular part of the stitching that it's not deep enough. And I'm just about on the limit of where the screw holds it together. But anything I make that's slightly bigger just won't fit in lengthwise like that, up end. So I'm going to have to rethink my stitching pony. And so here I go, speeding up a bit. You can see I've now got a bit of a rhythm. And the angle of the stitching is getting better and better. But on the back side, and I don't think I show it to you, but the back side, the stitching isn't angled, it's in a straight line. And I want to get to the point where it's angled on both sides. So now I'm taking that whole three-part sub-assembly and I'm going to attach it to the back and the main body. Just being very careful to get a nice line and hold the thing in place. I bought these clips, they're very useful, I found, for holding things in place. And this is where I'm really struggling. I've got that as low in the stitching pony as I can get it. And this is where I've made a mistake. I've completely forgotten to glue those joints. So you can see that they're open. And when you don't glue, it makes getting your needles through from one side to the other really difficult. Even more difficult when you've got too much height above the pony because the leather's just moving around. So it's a bit, you see, it's a bit of a struggle to get the needle, particularly from the back side. Now I'm well on my way. Again, stitching away from me, but get a nice rhythm. And this upcoming is another mistake I've made. This was an afterthought. I don't have a stud kit. I don't have one of those snap-on kits yet. I'm waiting for that to arrive as well. COVID has messed up all deliveries, and so a lot of stuff I've ordered haven't arrived. So I came up with the idea of a little strap. And I'll tell you in a second why I've made a mistake there. So I've decided to do a bit of there. I'll put a bit of gum on the main edges and then use my slicker. And I also then put a bit of edge coat as well to put a bit of dark brown colouring around that edge towards the end of the build. I mean, a lot of these things I'm sort of making up as I go along, so I'm not doing them necessarily. But you notice there's a few marks on that front cover. That's glue. Getting glue in the places, it's a mess. So here we are, finished. One mistake I made is that little holder for the strap goes right through the pockets and restricts the passports on the inside. And I guess that's, you know, if you don't plan it fully at the design stage, that's the kind of mistake you can make. Fortunately, I'm lucky. The pockets are sufficiently deep and the passport just does fit in enough. But if I did it again, that little keeper would be part of the sub-assembly very early on when I first started those pockets. But there you are, that's the build. If you like it, thanks so much. Give me a like and a thumbs up, and maybe ring the bell and watch my future journey as a leather crafter. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it.